This is a pretty big milestone for this show because it's the first movie I've ever reviewed from legendary director Dario Argento. Oh sure, I did Demons earlier this year, but that was just presented by Argento. He didn't actually direct it. That's like saying Quentin Tarantino directed Mighty Peking Man. Although if I didn't know any better, I'd swear he did direct parts of that movie. If you're not familiar with him, Argento's an Italian filmmaker known for movies like The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Deep Red, Suspiria, and Inferno. By all accounts, Argento is a legend in the horror community, and he's directed some of the most beloved films in the genre. But his more recent stuff has been kinda spotty. I think a good comparison career-wise is that Argento is kinda like an Italian version of Tobe Hooper. In the 70s, Hooper made one of the greatest and most influential horror movies of all time with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just like Argento did with Suspiria. And also like Hooper, even his 80s stuff that initially got a lukewarm reception is still worth watching. But in the later part of his career, Hooper was reduced to making schlock like Crocodile and Mortuary. So, of course, for my first Argento movie on the show, I'm doing one of his recent crappy movies and not one of his classic ones. Hey, would you have it any other way? So remember 10 years ago when Avatar came out and made a shitload of money and everybody said 3D was the future of cinema and we got a whole bunch of 3D movies? And then that kinda died off a little bit, but movie studios realized they could still charge higher ticket prices for 3D movies, so they kept it around, even if they quieted down with the whole future of cinema thing. Well, in 2012, Dario Argento decided to throw his hat into the 3D ring with an adaptation of the classic Bram Stoker novel Dracula. This movie is sometimes called Dario Argento's Dracula or just Dracula, but the most common title for it is Dracula 3D, which puts it in the same category as movies like Jaws 3D, Amityville 3D, and Friday the 13th 3D. So we've got a legendary director adapting one of the most popular characters and stories in horror history. What could go wrong? I don't know what I'm worried about, though. This was an official selection at the Cannes Film Festival, just like Southland Tales. And if you're thinking this couldn't possibly be as batshit as that movie, oh, just you wait. You know you're in trouble when the opening credits sequence looks like it's straight out of a 90s FMV game. Instead of Dracula, they should have called this Phantasmagoria 3. Oh, and get used to these effects, because they do not improve from here.
Tanya, have you finished?
Yes.
Remember to close the shutters tight. Tonight is.
Valpurgis night. I know.
Okay, are we sure this isn't just footage from a 90s FMV game Argento made? I see this takes place in the old country. Back then, people hung garlic in their houses to disguise the fact that indoor plumbing hadn't been invented yet. This girl's gotta make her way to Grandma's house before Argento realizes he's making Dracula and not a remake of The Company of Wolves. Or maybe he thinks he's making a Friday the 13th movie. Hey, relax, babe. I'm just checking off some horror movie cliches. Now, while we're at it, how about you show me them titties? I'm starting to think they really are getting stalked by old-timey Jason Voorhees, and he's gonna kill him for having opening scene sex.
Did you hear that?
Hey, what? It's just the wind.
Actually, I'm starting to think that is what's gonna happen here.
Walk me home.
What if they see us? You know I'm married.
Who's gonna see us?
Probably everyone, since you're walking through the most brightly lit woods ever. Oh, and remember how this movie's in 3D? Yeah, suck it, James Cameron. And if you thought those effects were impressive, check out this next shot. Wow, it's like that steam is just leaping off the screen. One advantage to shooting in Italy, there's no shortage of cool locations to film, even if they are being shot like an asylum ripoff of a Dracula movie. And once again, don't mind the garlic on the walls. That's just there to hide the fact that most of the patrons here are so drunk they just shit their pants. This is Jonathan Harker, who was in Transylvania to see Count Dracula.
4th of May. As I rode to Passburg, I thought I saw wolves appearing and disappearing through the trees.
Hey, this guy doesn't sound nearly as British as Keanu Reeves. Meanwhile, the guy from the beginning digs up his girlfriend's corpse. Just cause she's dead doesn't mean you have to stop seeing her. However, the other townsfolk get jealous that he's not willing to share.
It's all your fault! Please! Grandpa, please!
I'd make fun of that fake head effect more, but it's probably the best one in the entire movie. And I hope you're happy, fellas. Thanks to your fighting, now nobody gets to play Ed Gein with her. And again, about the effects in this movie. Okay, if you're gonna do the whole digital blood thing in a 3D movie, I think it should go more like this. Tanya is now one of Dracula's minions, which means she gets to be on the movie's Blu-ray cover. And it wouldn't be a newer Dario Argento movie without his daughter Asia playing a role. Because come on, did you honestly think she wasn't gonna be in this? I would say that makes this the Godfather 3 of vampire movies, but I think a better comparison would be that it's the avenging disco Godfather of vampire movies. Asia plays Lucy, a friend of Harker's wife and the daughter of the town mayor, although I'd prefer it if she was playing Lucy, daughter of the devil, since at least then the CGI would be more convincing. Seriously, if you're at all familiar with Argento's older work, it is hard to overstate just how disappointing this movie looks in comparison. In the 70s and 80s, Argento was one of the most stylish and distinctive directors around, not just in horror, but any genre. His use of bright, often clashing colors and keen sense of shot composition gave his films a look that was unlike anybody else at the time. This, on the other hand, looks like a Sci-Fi Channel original movie that was shot on video. And I know I keep harping on the effects, but... Okay, again, is this supposed to be a Dracula movie or a missing Gabriel Knight CD-ROM game? Alright, to be fair, there are a few moments where the old Argento style shines through, but mostly it looks like they just did a Google image search for some of the backgrounds. And maybe there's a happy little European castle right there. Now, the fact that this was directed by the same guy who made Suspiria will just be our little secret, you hear? While we're on the subject, the music was made by Claudio Simonetti of the band Goblin, who also scored a ton of other Argento movies as well as Demons. Usually Simonetti does great work. Here? Apparently someone told him he was working on a parody of a 50s sci-fi movie. Anyway, time to meet the Count.
Welcome, Mr. Harker.
Count Dracula.
Holy shit, Dracula is Alucard spelled backwards! Dracula is played by German actor Thomas Kretschmann, and to be honest, he's actually not that bad. It's not his fault he unknowingly signed on to be in B-roll for a rejected Sega CD game.
This library has existed for more than 400 years. My ancestors always held books in great esteem. The same holds true for me.
I have all the Harry Potter books and the entire Twilight Saga. As weird as Dracula is, at least he tries to make Jonathan feel comfortable.
Let me help you. You don't want to get an infection.
Oh hey, I think I might have got a little cut on my crotch too. Alright, enough of the sexy vampire chicks. Jonathan's got a busy day of reading the Necronomicon ahead of him. And now that I say that, Bruce Campbell would have made this movie a lot better. I don't know why Jonathan's so freaked out by this place. It's got hot vampire chicks that want to bang him.
Don't you like me, Jonathan?
Okay, good effort, but if a naked vampire chick really wants to seduce somebody, it should go more like this.
Use my body.
Oh, and remember how this was shot in 3D? Even Thomas Kretschmann couldn't avoid having a funny GIF moment in this movie. I will give this movie credit. Most American 3D films wouldn't include 3D boobies, even if they do look like they're on a Second Life character. Jonathan ends up getting bit, which means he can no longer see how his hair looks. After even more shitty effects, Argento does remind us he can still frame a decent shot, but then... You You know, instead of Avatar, I think this movie got most of its inspiration from Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Bad news, Mina. Your husband is now a vampire, but that doesn't mean you can't still catch up with Lucy.
You ought to find yourself a husband and have some children. Surely you won't tell me you have no suitors,
I have 3. You should see them, Mina. They're horrible.
Hey, don't say that. Your dad did some great work in the 70s. Don't sweat the vampires, ladies. You'll be protected by Sacha Baron Cohen's character from Hugo. Not to mention, they really knew how to light up the outdoors at night back in the day. Holy shit, Dracula has all the powers of a 1960s Star Trek episode. Not to mention, he is quite the player. The next day, Lucy says she doesn't feel well, resulting in her father asking to see what's wrong with her.
Papa!
I'm sorry, Lucy, but I must look.
Papa!
I must look.
Nope, no jokes I could possibly make here.
Well then, may I ask what you're looking for?
Yeah, I don't think you want to know the answer to that, Lucy. And I know I've complained about how bright the night shots are in this movie, but this is getting a little ridiculous. Maybe Argento did think he was making a Company of Wolves remake. Mina still doesn't know what happened to Jonathan, but forget that, Dario's got to show his daughter naked.
Stop it!
Hold still.
I'll do it to you too! You know what parents are like.
Yeah, I've seen his other movies with you in them. Mina tries to go to Dracula's castle to try and find Jonathan. Unfortunately, she falls asleep and wakes up as an extra in The Seventh Guest.
Madame, forgive me, I did not mean to startle you. I am Count Dracula.
Again, Kretschmann isn't a bad Dracula. He just deserves to be in a way better movie. Because Mina's husband is nowhere to be found, time for the Count to stop Draken and start mackin'.
Wait. Stay a while longer.
I really cannot.
Aw, come on, baby. You don't want to go through the woods when it's not really that dark out. There's something clearly supernatural going on, which means Mina has no choice but to turn to Dom DeLuise playing Father Guido Sarducci. Oh, and Lucy's dead, but don't worry, I'm sure Dario will find a way to show her naked again. That night, the townspeople meet up to decide what to do about Dracula, but they didn't count on his amazing Adobe After Effects powers. Okay, you know what? I'm sticking to my theory that this was originally a 90s FMV game that Argento made, and when it didn't get released, he just took the raw footage and made a movie out of it. They should have just called this Dracula CD. That would have been a way more appropriate title. Even though they were meeting to talk about betraying him, I'm sure Dracula will understand. Alright, since this is an Argento movie, I was wondering when I was going to get to use that drop. And I haven't commented on the effects in a while. Oh no, that guy just shot himself. Oh, thank God, Rutger Hauer. Hopefully he'll save this movie, town.
I'm sorry I frightened you. I am Abraham Van Helsing.
Wait, that's Van Helsing? But he's not nearly as ripped as Hugh Jackman. Mina tells Van Helsing that Lucy was buried shortly after she was bitten, which means they need to shoot her with a silver bullet.
In the name of God, return from whence you came.
Or, you know, just put 2 sticks together. Oh shit, that didn't work. Quick, try hitting her with another bad effect. Truly cinema hasn't seen fire this realistic since the Spawn movie.
The creature that is responsible for Lucy's death is not human. It is a vampire.
A vampire? Shit, she thought it was a leprechaun that bit her. Even though Van Helsing's an expert on vampires, he still better be careful. Never mind, that was easy. Ah yes, a cross right to the abdomen. The only surefire way to kill a vampire. Also a surefire way to get another 90s video game effect. Alright, that's it. There is no way this movie could possibly get any sillier. Holy shit. Okay, just to recap, so far we've seen Dracula turn into an owl, a bunch of flies, and a shitty CGI wolf. But I don't think anything's ever gonna top Dracula turning into the deadly fucking mantis and shanking a guy with one of his claws. So far this movie's been bad, but I think this is the moment where it crossed the line into being awesomely bad. At least until you remember it's from the same guy who directed Suspiria and Deep Red. Then it's just kinda sad. Dracula takes Mina back to his castle, but before he can rescue her, Rutger Hauer's got to shoot up enough heroin to get through this movie. And again, 3D. Well, that was an alright effect. If this were the game Corpse Killer. These bullets kill many bad movie. It should be pretty easy for Van Helsing to find Dracula's castle considering how bright these woods are. Seriously, is there a football night game going on in this forest? Dracula wants Mina to become the reincarnation of his long-lost wife, but first he has something to tell her.
First, you must know what I am. Nosferatu.
Nah, even the Nosferatu video game was a lot better than this. This looks more like long-lost footage for a Panasonic 3DO game. Or worse yet, a Philips CDI game. And what the hell happened to Jonathan Harker? Didn't he get turned into a vampire earlier? Oh, there he is. He's still in this movie. Okay, guess not. Bad news, Dracula. Not only is your wife dead, but she's also been turned to stone. Dracula tries to seduce Mina, but she'll never give in to him. Well, okay, sure, she'll give in. Chicks do love bad boys, after all. Huh. Usually the guy's the one who has to say no teeth. Mina, I've come to save you! Oh, shit. I'm a little late, aren't I? Rutger Hauer's gone from a hobo with a shotgun to a hobo with a pistol. And apparently he should have brought the shotgun. It's really weird seeing Rutger Hauer battling Dracula. I'm used to seeing him as the one fighting the vampire slayer. Well, Van Helsing ain't doing much, so looks like it's up to Mina to stop Dracula. Getting shot. A vampire's one weakness. What's really sad about this death scene is that the effects here aren't even the worst in the movie. But that was still pretty bad. I should point out that the budget for this was about $7.7 million, which wasn't much for a movie made in 2012, but it's still a hell of a lot more than you'd think this movie was made for. All I can say is I really hope Thomas Kretschmann and Rutger Hauer got paid decently for this. Hey Mina, now that I know you've got a thing for older men, I'm still here. Oh, and remember how this movie's in 3D? Oh, sorry Dario, but the Italian version of the Dark Universe isn't gonna take off either. So yeah, yeah. Okay, I just want to say this again, Argento is a legend who's made some of the most stylish and inventive horror movies ever. But you would not know that from this movie. A lot of fans and critics seem to agree, calling this one of Argento's worst films, although Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly called it ripely entertaining and said it rekindles the grandeur of Dracula. Sure, in the same way something like Sewer Shark rekindled the grandeur of sewers. I mean, it's amazing. The fact that this was directed by the same guy who made movies like Deep Red and Suspiria is almost hard to believe. It's like learning Stanley Kubrick made an Asylum movie. Most of the acting and direction is stiff, it's shot like a low-budget TV movie, and the effects, well, I think I said all I needed to about those. But if any of you out there are wondering if this is worth a few laughs as a so bad it's good movie, I'll just play this scene again. And that ought to be enough for you to make a decision. Well, that's all for now. Until next time.